In 2022, approximately 9,600 vehicles were stolen in the Toronto area alone, representing a 300% increase since 2015, end quote. What happened in 2015?
What happened?
I know, he happened, Mr. Speaker. How can we make him unhappen and stop the crime?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, this is a serious situation. Canadians are concerned about this, and the Conservative leader just chooses to whip out his empty slogans and continue to blame everyone while we're getting to work. We're pulling together stakeholders and leaders from across the government to look at what more we can do.
Drama unfolded in the House of Commons when Justin Trudeau and Jagmeet Singh tried to embarrass Pierre Poilievre in front of everyone. But obviously they were unprepared for what was coming. Poilievre swiftly dismantled their arguments with powerful counterpoints, leaving both of them speechless and clearly frustrated. The exchange was heated, and Poilievre showed his strong debating skills. And just when things seemed to settle, something even more shocking happened.
We've seen successes. CBSA agents have intercepted over 1,600 stolen cars last year in 2023, but there's more to do. We're going to continue to make the steady work and investments necessary to keep Canadians safe and to keep crime down.
To keep crime down? Crime is way up. Violent crime is up 40% under this Prime Minister. And today he had his ministers hold a big press conference as their solution. And in it, they put out a press release that said, and I quote, in 2022, approximately 9,600 vehicles were stolen in the Toronto area alone, representing a 300% increase since 2015, end quote. What happened in 2015?
What happened?
I know, he happened, Mr. Speaker. How can we make him unhappen and stop the crime?
In 2015, Stephen Harper presented a budget that had slashed funds for policing, slashed funds for CBSA officers, slashed funding for Veterans Affairs Services, and we were there to clean up the mess, to cut taxes for the wealthiest 1%, lower them for the middle class, to support families, to start moving forward on control in real ways while the Conservatives cozy up to the American communities. We've continued to step up and keeping Canadians safe. Let them bring back to our streets. We'll keep Canadians safe.
He ever losing control of himself? Oh my goodness. Screaming and hollering like that. Mr. Speaker, it's his press release that says that in Toronto, auto thefts are up 300% since he took office. His solution is to hold a summit. He held a summit on food prices. Food prices went up. He held a summit on housing. Housing costs doubled. How much is crime going to rise after all the bigwigs go to his summit?
Prime Minister.
Speaker, the leader of the opposition has trouble believing that we would actually include real facts in our press release, something he and the Harper government never did for years. Yes, Mr. Speaker, there is a real challenge around auto theft in this country, and our solution is to roll up our sleeves, pull together partners from across the country, and get to solving it. His solution, throw his hands up in the air, blame a raft of political on us, and continue to see that he's not putting forward any real solutions, Mr. Speaker.
Vehicle thefts and shipments overseas by organized crime rings have been a growing issue in Canada's biggest cities and suburbs, areas where the Tories have been losing ground in recent elections. Pointing the finger at Trudeau, Poilievre vows that under a Conservative government, he would invest millions in new scanners to help border agents catch stolen cars hidden in shipping containers. But no one saw coming what Poilievre did next.
It's all an act with this guy. He would have you believe that if he committed me to secrecy and forced me to take an oath of silence, that would somehow close the Beijing police stations here in Canada? Of course not. What we need is a strong law that will allow our police to arrest them. The question is very simple. Why is it that the Americans have been able to shut down the Beijing police stations in their country and arrest the agents involved with them, while in this country, this Prime Minister has been able to do neither?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, any serious politician in this place should understand how the Security of Information Act actually works, particularly someone who has sat in cabinet and who was Canada's Minister of Elections. But the reality is, if the member opposite doesn't understand how the Security of Information Act works, we would be happy to provide a briefing to him.
They don't have to brief me on the laws. I've actually read them, Mr. Speaker. Section 12.1 of the National Security and Intelligence Committee Act says that I would not only be silenced from speaking about matters broadly, but I would be prevented from debating them on the floor of the House of Commons, which is exactly what the Prime Minister wants. But he's not going to get it. I won't be gagged. I won't be silenced. I will continue to seek the truth. And here's the truth that I want him to finally speak. We've known that there are foreign police stations operating on Canadian soil. We know the Prime Minister's government has given them tax dollars. How much did he give them?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Well known, as Canadians well know, this government takes extremely seriously the issue of foreign interference and has since 2015, when we brought in significant measures to counter foreign interference, and continue to. The RCMP is quite rightly charged with the responsibility of investigating and following up on these reports of Beijing-funded police stations. But indeed, if the Leader of the Opposition is so curious...
Poilievre claims he's got proof that the Prime Minister's government has funneled tax dollars to foreign police stations. But notice how Trudeau sidesteps the question? In the background, someone keeps pressing, asking over and over how many. The tension builds as the Speaker finally steps in, halting question time, yet still, that crucial question remains hanging in the air, unanswered. But watch, as Trudeau was unprepared for what was coming next.
First of all, the number of police stations controlled by a foreign dictatorship in Canada is not a detail. It would not be a detail if any government had foreign police stations operating on our soil. Second of all Canadians deserve to know the answer. The government claimed that it shut down all these police stations. Now we know there are 2 in operation, and that the Prime Minister's government has given taxpayers money to help fund them. Simple question. How many of Beijing's police stations are operating on Canadian soil today? How many?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, if the Leader of the Opposition continues to have questions like many Canadians do on foreign interference, I would suggest that he actually takes up our security agencies on the offer they have made to him of getting briefed up on all the intelligence related to foreign interference, so he doesn't have to hide behind, and I quote the report on this, a veil of ignorance, and can actually work from the facts.
The Prime Minister can brief all Canadians right now.
Hear, hear.
These are police stations that exist to harass and intimidate Canadian citizens on Canadian soil. No real country would allow a foreign dictatorship to run police stations on its soil. The Americans are arresting Beijing's agents in their country. So one last time, I'll give the Prime Minister the chance to answer the question. How many police stations, how many, and how many is Beijing operating on Canadian soil?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, if the Leader of the Opposition were to take this issue of foreign interference seriously as an issue facing diaspora communities, as an issue facing Chinese Canadians, he would be interested in actually understanding the facts around foreign interference. But instead, he chooses to play partisan games. He chooses to make personal attacks against a former Governor General instead of actually accepting to take this issue seriously. He knows full well the RCMP's responsibility is to do these investigations and make arrests, and they are actually following up on that.
L'honorable député de Belleuil-Chambly.
And after all this, the question still hangs in the air. How many?
Hiding behind, quote, a veil of ignorance is very characteristic for a leader who has no interest in actual facts. There's nothing stopping him right now from getting cleared, briefed, and disagreeing with the former Governor General's conclusions if he so chooses. Regardless of his opinions, he is entitled to those. He is not entitled to his own facts. please, Mr. Speaker, I really encourage the Leader of the Opposition to get briefed.
All Canadians are entitled to the facts, Mr. Speaker. And that's why we want a public inquiry. We know that Beijing gave $140,000 to the Trudeau Foundation. We know that when the scandal broke, he named Mr. Rosenberg to look into it. Rosenberg is with the Trudeau Foundation. When the scandal exploded further, he named Mr. Johnston, also a member of the Trudeau Foundation. Is the Prime Minister afraid of a public inquiry because he's run out of members of the Trudeau Foundation that could run it?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, while the Leader of the Opposition continues on his personal and his partisan attacks, we're going to continue to deal with...
I'm sorry.
Once again, we see the level to which the Leader of the Opposition on this very serious issue has nothing to offer other than partisan attacks and personal attacks, rather than actually dealing with the substance of this serious issue. To deal with the substance of this serious issue, we have offered him, I directed intelligence agencies to offer him secure briefings so that he can actually understand the facts underlying both the former Governor General's report and the issue of foreign interference, and he has simply refused because he doesn't want anything, like facts particularly, to get in the way of a good partisan argument.
Trudeau dodges it once again, leaving no answer in sight, but one thing's for sure, Poilievre won't let this slide. Next time, he'll push even harder.